Hey guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. Jay Helmsing here. Today I'm going to review a gun that I recently purchased and I really don't have a reason to purchase. So I think we've all been there before, but let's kind of explore this a little more deeply, okay? The gun I'm talking about is the FNS-9C compact variant in this beautiful FDE color. So some of you may have seen this. This is kind of a relatively new offering from FN. It came out right before the 509, or right at the same time the 509 was released. They came out with this full FDE color, probably just to test the waters, and because FDE is obviously tactical, right? So there is that. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm going to start off by telling you guys, if you haven't watched my FNS-9 video, that I am a fan of the FNS-9 and FN Herstal in general, and it's mainly because of their rifles and my extensive usage of their rifles and machine guns in the military. I've never had one break, go down, have issues, serious malfunctions, seen a finish issue. They just make quality stuff, okay, from top to bottom. It's really hard to deny that, okay? And I really think a tragedy of the pistol market is the FNS-9. Just probably wasn't marketed very well. The triggers in these early models, this is one that you can see is made in Virginia. It's got the Virginia roll stamp in it. Triggers in these early models were fairly rubbish, okay? The design isn't bad. The design's fairly robust, but the triggers are gritty. They have a lot of take up. They break really difficult. This one's been kind of massaged and broken in, and it's still not a really good trigger. But that said, I can shoot it fairly well. So there are a lot of things going for this entire family of guns. And I'm kind of worried about the 509. The tactical model seems to be fairly neat. There are some other things on there that I like, as far as the the redesign of the mag release, the redesign of the slide release or slide stop. I think those are all, bonuses, because the original 509 had pretty lousy versions of controls. The neat flared Magwell that you have on the FNS series, that's gone on 509. Other than that, the trigger mechanism, everything else is pretty much the same. I don't understand why they released both of those guns at the same time. I've heard of the 509 being called the flagship of it. I don't know, it's more of a militant style gun, but as far as most users, including myself as a law enforcement officer, the FNS probably fits that bill a little bit better. They're both full ambi, but some of the things as far as durability and dirt resistance and stuff like that that were changed between the 509 and this, I'm not ever going to use probably. So just some food for thought. I think they're kind of in a weird state right now as far as where their guns are. That's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about the FNS-9C and my thoughts on this gun. Now, I'm not a fan of small guns, and some of you may know this. And by small guns, I mean these pocket guns, these, the Glock 43. I've had 2 or 3 of those, and I sold them every time. I've had a Shield, sold it. The guns were not bad by any means. I could shoot them well. They carried well. I'm just not a fan of concealed carrying a gun like that because of my role, because I am a police officer, so, like they say, you're never really off duty. I'm just not real comfortable carrying anything less than like a compact size gun. I like being able to grab a almost full-size grip, not having to feel around for the thin grips and all that stuff. I like having more than 6 or 8 rounds on tap. I like having the ability to load a full-size mag in if I need. That way I can carry a spare full-size mag. So there are a few things that I really like about the more compact size or even subcompact versions of the full-size models, as opposed to the little pocket guns or the Glock 43 single-stack family of guns. I'm just not a big fan of those guns. So that's going to kind of bring us to this, because at times I find myself needing a slightly smaller gun. And, I've had a few Glock 26s. There's nothing wrong with those guns, but there are a few quirks here and there I didn't really care for. The main thing being the 2-finger grip. I can shoot them well, but as far as drawing and really getting a good purchase, especially from deep concealment, which is where these guns are going to be carried most of the time, I did have some problems with getting a solid 2-finger grip and getting that out of a holster quickly, and not fumbling or wasting a bunch of time getting that thing on target. So that was kind of a compromise for me. So the this size is just maybe a little bit bigger than the Glock 26. They're very comparable in size, but it might just be maybe a smidge bigger. This is basically the same size as the original FNS-9C. As far as having this little breakaway action here, or this truncated grip with the finger extension and whatnot. Now, obviously, 2.0, they went with more of the Glock 19 size, so this is more of a full-size grip on the M&Ps. But there are some companies, FNS or FN Herstal being one, that has remained with this, more of an in-between, smaller than a Glock 19 size for their compacts. So let's get into this top to bottom, like I normally do these reviews, and then I'll kind of show you some comparisons between this and the full-size FNS, and we'll kind of take it from there. So here we go. Front sight is metal, just like the rear sight here. Both of them are metal. They have either a tritium version or they have this just contrast version. I really like the sights, especially for a combat sight picture. They work really well. They do have this ramped, rear sight as opposed to the FNs that have the FN 509, I should say, which has the straight up and down style rear sight, which you can manipulate off your belt or off the holster if you need to. No such luck on this. This is like a more of a Novak ramp style. So just know that going in, you can't do any kind of battle racks or anything. If you go down, you can't work these these serrations here. Might be an issue for you, okay? So just something to think about. The other thing I'll talk about while I'm talking about sights is that there are not many options out there. I know that TrueGlow, TrueGlow makes an option, and they have a couple. I have tried out these. These are the TrueGlow Tritium Pros. This is for an FN models. The FNS, I should say, models, because the 509 uses a different sight set. It's the same on the Sig Sauer guns. But these dovetails here, very limited in your sight options. So if you don't like the factory sights, you're kind of hosed. Even Dawson Precision makes a front sight for them, but they don't make the rear sight for them. So there's not a whole lot of flexibility there. As far as these sights, this is neither here nor there. I have tried these, but I do find this front sight to be obnoxiously large. It's even wider than the stock front sight, so not a huge fan. So you don't really have a whole lot of options as far as sights go. Not a big deal if you can work with the stock front sights or stock sights in general, which is what I have found myself able to do on these guns. If you shoot them in competition, Savigny Performance does still make the fiber optic version here, so you can order those straight from their website. And you're probably one of, I don't know, maybe 10 people that have ever bought these. Not putting down Savigny Performance, it's an awesome company, and these are awesome sights, but just not in high demand, right? There's just not a big demand for fiber optic sights or anything on these guns, and I think you're going to see that. I did notice that you can also get now a set of Trigicon XDs, or HD, I should say, Trigicon HD sights with the correct dovetails for the FNS models now, so that's worth mentioning. You do have a couple options, just not a whole lot out there right now. And I don't see that getting any better, especially if the 509 is the gun that they choose to kind of go with and push forward. Probably going to be dwindling even more on aftermarket support. So that is the one downside of the FNS platform. There's just not a whole lot of aftermarket support. You can find holsters for them. You can have holsters custom made. But that's pretty much it. I do know that the trigger just came out from Apex that will work in this, and that is basically made for the 509 and this, and that's just kind of coincidental. But they will work in the older FNSs, so you have that going for you, but really not much else, okay? So as we go further down, the finish on this is really nicely done. It reminds me of the FNH rifles that I fired. It's just a bomb-proof finish. I mean, it's just very hard to wear. It doesn't scratch off easily. It's impregnated in the metal, and it is very grippy, so very dull, very grippy. They do very, very nice work. The details on this gun are just phenomenal. I mean, everything is just almost perfectly machined, perfectly made, very purposeful, and the finish is no doubt following along those lines. Very, very good to grip, very flat, not reflective at all. So that's kind of cool. You move on down to the rest of this polymer is kind of a different color. So the kind of the tone difference there. That's kind of a trademark with FN that was kind of ripped off on the M9A3. That kind of wacky multi FDE color. But it's carried out on this. You can even see the back strap's a little bit of a different color. This little sleeve that you have is a different color polymer than this. So kind of a neat little setup. Is hodgepodge as it may seem, it kind of works pretty well. So I'm a fan of that, and that's something that's kind of neat about these guns. As we get further down, we're going to talk about the controls next. Now, the controls on this, really everything is just like the FNS. However, it's completely redesigned. So let me give you an example here. If I line both of these up as closely as I can, the triggers are in basically the same place, But the trigger guard, if you guys can see it poking through there, the trigger guard on this FNS is about a 1/4 inch shorter. You can't really see it with the naked eye, but if you compare them side by side, the FNS Compact does have a smaller trigger guard than the FNS full size, but it follows those same dimensions. Also, if you'll notice the controls on both of these, everything has been shrunk down on the FNS Compact. So it's the same style. Even this little slide stop or slide release is just a little bit shorter than you have on the full size. Same with the takedown lever. You have a little mini takedown lever there. You have the full size takedown lever on the full size. So that's kind of neat. The mag release, I'll talk about this in a minute, but the mag release protrudes more on the full size and it is more flush on the compact. Okay, we'll talk more about those in just a few moments. But it's just really neat how everything has been mimicked but not copied necessarily. It's not a directly exchangeable part between the two. A lot of things have been changed on this compact version. It's not just a sawed-off version of the full size like you see with some manufacturers. Even the beaver tail in the back, if you notice, it is much more melted and much more flat back here than you have on the full size. So just some things to point out as we go on with this. Okay, it's kind of neat how they did that. And stay with the same design theory, but they changed everything to be more compact and small on these more compact carry models. We're going to talk next. I really like the controls on the FNs. I don't have any problem using this or manipulating. It's about the same size as you have on the Glock, but it is protected a little bit better, so I don't seem to ride it as much, and it is tapered into the frame a little bit, so even when I have a high palm grip, I don't seem to ride that. Now the one complaint really, this ambi mag release on these compacts, it works well on the gun, but on these compacts, it's just so flat with this mag release, and it's so recessed that it's very hard to manipulate for some people. I've got really long thumbs and really long fingers, and I can do it fairly easily, especially if I ride all the way up here in the front and I really get a push on that. But it's nowhere near as easy as the full size is, because you can see how far that sticks out there. I mean, you can do these really without pushing too hard at all, and that goes for either side. Okay, so some people have such an issue with these mag releases that they'll actually use, like they're a lefty, they'll use their fingers, their index finger or their middle finger, to work that release. So just something to watch out for. But there is a fix. For about 25 bucks, you can get the full size version of that mag release, and you can just install it in your compact, and you will have the same exact feel that you do on a full size. So you can put kind of the extended version in this if you want to, okay, if that's a problem for you. Now the reason they did that is because obviously this is made to be carried in a more concealed manner, and if this is close to your body, that may be either a hot spot for rubbing, or if you get in a tussle with somebody, it could be jostled out of place, it could be accidentally hit. So I feel like they wanted it to go, sub-flush to activate releasing the magazine, because that has been known to happen, especially if you carry a more extended version. You bump into this, you get in a wrestling match with somebody, you get thrown on the ground. It just has to barely bump this, and your magazine is out, so you draw your weapon, and plink, your magazine falls on the ground. So that's kind of why they did that. For those that complain about it, there is a reason, but you got to decide if that reason is worth it for you. If not, put the full size in there, and you're good to go. Okay. Other than that, we'll get on to the ergonomics next. I'm a really big fan of the grip areas on the FNs. I really like this pyramid design like they use on the Glock Gen 4 and up. It offers really good traction without a whole lot of pressure. You can just barely get some pressure on there and really start picking up some good traction. It is not irritating, so I don't notice this irritating my skin like some of those patterns out there. It's in all the right places, so I don't feel like it's overly aggressive or anything, but it gives you a very, very nice solid purchase on the gun. You do have the exchangeable back straps like you do on the FNS full size. With this only has the flat and the curved humped version. I use the curved version in both of my FN pistols. This does come out just a little bit earlier than you're going to see. This is more of a long curve there, so you see how it kind of has like a longer slope. This is more of an abrupt little bloop, little bubble butt here. Feels a lot like a Glock 19, where that comes out, kind of in the palm of your hand, And I don't have a problem gripping either this or this. There's not really one that I prefer over the other. So, you know, just take it for what it's worth. That does come out as a little more drastic, but I don't have an issue with it. It doesn't feel uncomfortable by any means, and it does lock in there fairly solid in my hand. With these tan versions, you actually only get 2 magazines. These originally came with 3 in the black version. You can get a flush mount, so just for your regular 2-finger grip. You can get this with the little base plate here for your pinky. Or you also get the full size that has this grip sleeve on it. So this is a 17 round mag. In the FTE version, you only get the little pinky rest one and the full size 17 with the little, you know, extension cover here. So what I've noticed is these are really well done. On a lot of guns, you get this really cool flared magwell that carries over from the full size to this compact. So really nicely flared here. Kind of one of the things I really like about the FNS series pistols. But what they really did nice here, I have sometimes an issue with some of these guns that have, you know, the finger plates that you need on the magazine, because when I get a high grip, I might go close to that seam. As you can see where my pinky is riding with my really high grip, my pinky comes close to that seam, and then a lot of times under firing, the magazine will be pulled up into the gun as the next round is fed, and I will pinch my finger, pinch the bejesus out of my pinky finger. I mean, sometimes to where I'm like, I don't want to shoot this anymore, or like, you know, I really react to it almost. So this gun, if you'll notice, because of the flaring and the way this, you know, this secondary base plate fits on there, it's actually pushed out there, okay? So it's like they really took some time to keep your finger away from that, and it's also beveled really nicely. So even if it does ride up, it's not going to pinch your skin. Okay, so in my experience firing these, I've never had that same sort of you know, magazine bite that I get with other you know, compacts or subcompacts like that. So they really took some time to put some effort into designing that, and you know, kudos to them, because it's kind of one of those unnoticed things until you get out there and fire it and it doesn't bite you to death. You're like, that is really cool that it actually works right. Okay, so something I did notice with this gun, also 17 round mag, you can put it in there. And it's got the same feature on that there, so it has that counter flare, and it's also beveled on the inside, so you don't have any sharp edges that are going to pinch or bite you. And it actually doesn't look all that crazy or cobbled together with the full-size mag in there. So, you know, if you're carrying it in the winter months, you can put your full-size mag in there, and you'll be good to go. Or if, you know, you're in a super dangerous situation, and or if this is your only gun, like this is your Project 1 gun, you could carry it like this and put it on your nightstand with this bad boy in and have a dual roll gun. So that's kind of a cool feature also of the gun there. Just like the regular full-size FNs, this also has the broken or the articulating trigger, much like the Smith & Wesson guns. However, this is much less aggressive than those. I really like this trigger because you don't have any of the funny dingus or anything like you do on some of the bladed triggers. But it does have that safety, the drop safety that these triggers seem to need, especially on a striker gun. Now, we'll talk next about trigger pull. And this gun has an amazing trigger pull. This again is one of the newer ones made in Columbia, South Carolina, and I do think there have been some improvements made to this line, just kind of slowly, you know, trickled into the line. But as you see here, and I'm going to try to do this so you guys can kind of watch this, but pretty nice take up. It's not as clean as maybe a Gen 5 Glock, but there is a pretty nice take up. It comes back to a wall, and then it's going to break pretty much right off that wall, but it's a very clean sweep, very nice break. It doesn't really make you pull it off target or anything crazy, and you can slowly creep through that, okay? So it's not like it's just going to suddenly break like some of the earlier FNSs did. You can slowly sweep through it, but it's a very thick feeling, almost like dragging your hand through finger through peanut butter or something there. So it is much different of a trigger than you're going to have in like a Glock. But reset is very short, very comparable. It's not like CZ P10C area, but it is a pretty nice short reset, maybe a hair shorter than a Glock. And trigger feel, as far as poundage, is about the same you're going to get out of a Glock. So these newer triggers in these FNS guns are really nice. They have really done a good job improving that trigger, and they are very accurate. I'm very accurate with this gun and with the newer FNS models. Some of the older guns like this one, with a more gritty trigger, I have a tendency sometimes to work it too fast and I will pull shots low. That does not happen with the newer style FNSs, so you know, 2 thumbs way up there. Before I forget, I'm going to point this out in the front here. If you'll notice, This gun does have good standoff capability. The guide rod is actually marginally out further than the barrel, and the barrel is completely flush with the slide on these compact models. What that means is if you get in a close-up battle, this is actually going to be the first thing, this guide rod will be the first thing to make contact if you're shooting flush with something. So not to be a goof and put my hand there, but if you're pushing it really hard into something, it's not going to come out of battery, and you'll still be able to pull the trigger and you know, have it go bang if you need it to. So there's that. Whereas on the full-size models, you do have the barrel protruding, much like on a Glock. And if you do the same trick with these, let me get a flat side here. If you do the same trick with these, you're going to have it come out of battery because that barrel is making contact first, and you're going to run into that safety, the out of battery safety, which, oh no, I didn't go off, and now I got a dead trigger, right? So just some things to think about, right? So they really have taken some care in designing this as more of a carry version or an up-close battle version of the FNS. So really, really neat features. It's also a very light gun, so let me see if I can get my scale down here. Give you some figures and numbers on that. I'll compare the two really quickly, and then I'll show you side by side. So let me drop the mag out. We'll put this one in here with the little pinky extension. And so we got it zeroed out here. So FNS-9C weighing in at 1 pound, 7.5 ounces. So very nice svelte gun, very, very nice and manageable there. Full size with the normal magazine in there. 1 pound, 8.7 ounces, very close, you know, within an ounce of each other. But again, that is, you know, really, really good lightweight territory. So that's kind of where you want to be for a carry gun, at least in my opinion. So you can't go wrong with weights like that. Now let's compare them side by side. And you'll see we're looking at a quarter-ish inch or so on the end there. It's actually a little bit more because the muzzle, like I say, is recessed in this one. So it's nice and set in there. You see that drastic difference between the trigger guards. That's kind of a cool thing that I didn't notice until I compared them side by side. And you also have a little bit shorter footprint in the back because you don't have the extended beaver tail like you do on the full size. Okay, and then you're looking at the grip here. So if you use a flush grip, you can just put the flush plate in there. You're going to be substantially shorter than the full size. However, with this pinky rest here, you're looking at the difference there. So you're looking at, you know, maybe an 1/8 inch or so difference right in here, and in the butt area, which is typically the hardest to conceal, you're looking at some pretty significant difference there. So just some things to think about as far as concealability of this gun. It carries, it shoots like a full-size gun. I've been very accurate with this gun, you know, just about as accurate as I am with the full-size or the Glock 19. So there's no worry there, and it does carry 12 rounds in these flush or the pinky base models. So you got 12 rounds instead of the Glock 26's 10 with the flush fitting magazine. So it has adequate capacity, and then, you know, if you really get in dire straits, we got 17 more on tap. Let's go ahead and make it rock as a full size, right? So this gun is just an awesome gun to shoot. And again, just like the other FNS that I mentioned, just doesn't get a whole lot of play time, just doesn't get a whole lot of air time. I'm guessing FNH Herstal makes such a ton of money off of its military contracts. It just doesn't put a lot of effort and time into developing its handgun systems and probably pushing these to police departments. But I think the newer FNSs, and especially this FNS-9C, they're definitely winners. Reliability has been great, as you would expect on any striker-fired pistol nowadays. So if you're in the market for a Glock 26, do yourself a favor and check this bad boy out first, because you might be pleasantly surprised, and they can be had for a very reasonable price right now, guys. So thanks for checking this out. Continue to practice your craft. Continue to like, comment, check out my the rest of my YouTube videos and also my Instagram under the same name, Jay Helmsing. Until next time, keep it up, guys. I will check in on you periodically, and we will continue this journey. Thank you.